So I finished my first batch of cutting boards that I plan on selling, and they turned out pretty good. I like how they look, and it's just straight cuts. So the basic process is I just take rough cut wood. It's 6 quarters, 8 quarters, 5 quarters. Some of them are even 4 quarters. And then I rough dimension it with just a track saw or like a handheld saw to get about roughly the length I want. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 inches too long, so I'm going to do some more cutting. Then I run it through the jointer for a bit to get some straight edges, and then I run it through the planer to get some flat plain sides, and then I cut anything else through the table saw to make sure certain pieces are parallel with the other side. And then once I stand these strips next to each other, if they're not fitting really clean, then I'll run these through the jointer again on the 2 sides, and so they'll come together really clean. And so once everything's rough cut and I have the edges pretty clean, I was using these Rockler clamps here, and I'll just set the pieces in here, flip them on their side, glue everything up, cinch these down, and then press it so some of the glue squeezes out, and then leave it overnight. The next day, once all the glue's dried, I scrape any excess glue that's beaded and dried on the top, and then I'll run it through the planer, and then just shave everything down so everything's the same height on the top and bottom. And then there was a couple boards that were uneven, so when I sat them down, they'll be wobbly like that. This one's fine, it's just not sitting right, but it'll be wobbly. So I made a little jig and then put a shiv underneath the board and ran it through the planer to give it a flat top, and then I flip it over, run it through again, and so then both sides are parallel and it makes it perfectly flat. Once everything's roughly smooth, then I'll cut off the sides so I'll get the basic shape. Then I'll sand everything at 80 grit, sand everything at 120 grit, then I'll spray it with water to get the grain to stand up, sand it again at 120 or 150, and then I was using a handheld router to smooth off the edges, both on the sides and on the edges. And then I'll cut this angle cut here, and then I might sand this part a little bit too at like 150 or 120, then 150. And then apply the mineral oil, either the walrus oil or the Howard's mineral oil. Let everything sit overnight. Then I'll wipe off the excess, and then I sand everything again at about 320. And I'll also hit these edges here because sometimes they're a little bit rough still. So I'll smooth down these edges, hit everything over at 320, vacuum up all the dust, make sure everything's wiped down clean. And then for this one in particular, I use the Butcher Block conditioner. That's the Howard's product again. And then let that sit overnight. And then all the other boards, I use the Walrus Oil Wood Wax. And then let this sit overnight. And then after that, I wipe off all the excess the next day. And then I use a buffer pad on my orbital sander, and then I just go over everything again on each of the boards to just buff in the wax. So again, this is the basic process I just adopted from this gentleman. Sorry, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I watched a couple of his YouTube videos and walked through his process. He does some great stuff. He makes awesome cutting boards. I'll post that down below so you can see what I'm referencing and watch some of his other videos. And once everything's buffed in, it's just a matter of drilling the holes down here. I'm going in about 1 inch on each side, and then just drilling in pilot holes and then screwing in these screws for these little cutting board pads. The first one I did here, here we got walnut, maple, Patagonia rosewood, cherry, Purple Heart, and Gombe, which is a West African hardwood. This one might be my favorite that I did. Walnut, Gombe, Purple Heart, and cherry strips. I love this purple side. That looks pretty cool. This one's a little more narrow. This one is cherry pieces on the side, and the center is plain sawn sapelli. It's a big sapelli slab, but it's got some pretty cool grain on it. This is a smaller one I did. We got sapelli here, big cherry piece here, and then these pieces, I can't remember what they are. I think it's a South American wood. It's not ebony. I can't remember though. This board, we have Gombe, Wenge, maple, maple, cherry, purple heart. This is the heaviest one. It's the thickest. We have maple, 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 sapelli, cherry, cherry, Patagonia rosewood, walnut, and purple heart. So that's the first batch. As far as price, what I'm going to sell them for, I don't really know yet. I'm going to bring them down to a local art place that sells local art stuff from people who live in the area. There's a couple of people that sell wood out of the woodwork out of the shop, and I think there's one gentleman that sells cutting boards as well. So I don't even know if they're going to want me to sell additional cutting boards and might want me to just make boxes or something else. I'm going to talk to them. But the cutting boards I've seen down there are a little bit smaller and don't use as many exotic woods or nice hardwoods. And so I kind of have an idea of what they're selling those for and what I could probably sell these for. Obviously you can't sell them for too much. No one's going to buy them, but it has to be worth the effort. So I don't think I'd sell them for $50 a piece, but I couldn't sell them for $300 or $400 a piece, so probably somewhere in between that. But I'll see once I go down there to talk to them and see what they think. Thanks.